Hey guys, John and I are back with another podcast. We interviewed one of his good friends, Matt Richter. He is an Army veteran. He's a captain with the fire department, and he has some pretty cool stories. This was just story time with Matt, and John and I sat back and listened and asked a few questions. So you guys are going to really enjoy this one, I think. And then next week, we have our next podcast ready to go. We're going to release it next Monday. It's just me and John. We just went through the 75 Hard Challenge, so we're going to tell you guys all about that, and we're excited to get that out there. So stay tuned. Thanks. We love you guys.
Did I see a video of you on YouTube crying? No, it wasn't like you're a baby crying. It was after the fire. Did they interview you after the fire?
Yeah, we were up at headquarters, and
Was it nighttime or morning time, like early morning?
no,
I want to say that I saw.
I'm on YouTube crying.
Dude, this was a long time ago, and I could be making this up in my head, but I want to say I saw a video. Maybe you just got really passionate. I don't know. But you talked about Dave.
Yeah, we were up at headquarters in the front lobby. I think it was 2 days after, maybe the next day. I can't recall, but it was 2 to 3 days after the Commons Court fire, and they had, I don't know, all the news channels were up there, and they interviewed me and Bernal, and Gray was still in the hospital, and so there was some questions asked or whatever, and when he came up and talking to him, it was just it for him to still be in the hospital hurt, and for me even to leave the scene, by med unit and going to the hospital with him, not knowing that sucked.
Yeah.
Not knowing, is he going to get out? Are they getting him out? I wanted to be in control of that, Even though physically I was injured, I couldn't do anything about it. I still would have given it a good rip, and tried. Obviously that was not feasible.
So Commons Court fire, what? Give us the initial rundown.
Yep. There was a lot of build up to it that was, when you step back and look at it, things that I think organizations can learn from and individuals. And so me and another firefighter, we were drivers, were at 24 at the time. We were on the truck, and there was no ambulance there. We had just completed paramedic school. And so our battalion chief at the time was rotating us every other shift down to Station 1 to do two things, to kind of give us, get us brand new medics. We were checked off and everything, get us on a med unit and get that experience at a busy house, and then also give the guys down there a break. So when I got down there on a shift, this particular shift, it was a little bit weird, and I actually had to talk at the kitchen table for breakfast that morning because I was the senior guy, and I hadn't been there. I had probably I was on the sergeant list, so I guess I would have been here almost 5 years probably, but I was the senior guy there, and which was weird because, there were some big names that were on that shift that were just off, and there was no officer rotate, so there was no sergeant, there was no lieutenant, there was no captain there that day, and I was there to be on the med unit, so it wasn't like I could just throw any weight around that I didn't have and be like, I need to be on the engine today, so it's me and a rookie on the squad, and then another driver with not a ton of experience on the med unit or on the engine with another rookie.
Stacked crew.
So, yeah, newish driver driving a rookie, and a rookie with me on the med unit. And so we had a really busy day. At one point, I talked to them, going back and up at breakfast. I said to them, look, I've worked down here before. I said, things can get going in a hurry, I said, and can get out of hand in a hurry. I said, but there's a lot of help coming. I said, if I'm at the hospital with a patient or whatever, and, you need more help, just call for it. I said, don't get into something you can't get out of. I've kind of had that talk. I said, there's nobody here that, knows the area really that great. I think there was one person, Brian Carter, was the only guy that was assigned to that crew that was there. The rest of everybody was floating and traveling in, me and the other 2 rookies. Busiest station in the county. So I'd already, my flag was already up that we need to be careful, and so had a busy day running all day on the box. And then, the engine ran a couple calls and we bedded down, and I think it was 2, maybe 3 o'clock in the morning. The call came out, working fire with entrapment. And so I was pretty sure I knew where it was. So we and the guy on the engine, Carter, he knew right where it was. So they took off out of the bay, and we started ripping behind them and pulled in the neighborhood. And as we pulled in, I could see the header. Like at night it looks different, but I knew there was I rolled my window down, I could smell it. And they had confirmed en route that there was entrapment. And I believe SO or PD or somebody had said it was on scene, and they confirmed it as well. And then, so we pulled up, and, there was a lot of fire. I didn't know then that I do now, though, that, the crews at one had run that house before. They had been in there. I can't remember if Carter did or not, but, it was an elderly couple. They were, not very mobile at all. And then there was the son and the daughter-in-law or the son-in-law, whichever. They made it out, and they tried to get the parents out, but they couldn't. So when I pulled up, it looked defensive, pretty quick. I could feel like defensive. So there was an issue with, at that point, like engine pulls up, squad pulls up behind them, and, he kind of sort of made a command decision on the radio and set command, but then I kind of did too, because we didn't have the discussion like, hey, we roll up at the same time, who's taking command? Knowing that I was the senior guy, I think he was thinking I was going to do it, but he was on the rig, and I was like, the rig should do it, and boom. So that wasn't, we didn't talk about everything, we hadn't worked together. So, crew dynamic was bad in terms of just knowing each other. And then, we got there. I think second units on scene were Woodstock unit. That's when Dave Gray and the guy, whoever else was with him at 14, George Williams, I know, was there. Anyway, so I kind of gave command, or what command we had set, to Williams. There was a fence that was on fire on the left side, and then the fence continued on the right. So I was like, man, I didn't make a full walk around. A lot of fire in the back on the deck and running up the back of the house.
Is that where it started?
I think it started in the garage, if I remember correctly. But it may have been the back porch now that I'm there was a ton of fire. There was active fire in the garage. There was active fire on the back deck and inside, pretty deep in the house too. And so we started pulling lines and everything, and through a ladder to the front door. Me and Dave Gray kind of hooked up right away and started working together, and actually VES'd a room. He held my heels, and we threw a ladder into a ground level window. And he held I crawled all the way up to the tip of the ladder, and then he held my heels up there kind of in a way. And it was over the garage, which was on fire. And so I didn't feel comfortable going all the way in, and nor could I have, because there was stuff everywhere. I couldn't even, I did clip my flashlight on quick, and you could barely even see the floor. There was just stuff everywhere. And that was kind of the MO of that house afterwards. Guys that had been in it previously on EMS calls, they had kind of learned that. And so kind of halfway cleared that room, backed out, and then, there was 19 was on scene. There was a 2.5 pulled, and started getting some more hands on scene, and big water. Again, defensive was called. And so the weird, or the unique thing I would say with that fire and the building construction from it was, we were working in what should have been a pretty safe area. I was on the front porch. I walked from grass to stairs onto a front porch that was concrete, and there was bushes all around it, but it was a concrete. You don't see that, you don't notice that. So concrete porch, grass to concrete. Okay, this is poured. I had a tool, and I was hitting it. So we were taking at the time when the collapse happened, we were on the front porch, 3 or 4 of us. And we were taking turns kind of working the 2.5, because it was, you had to get it up over your shoulder and work it. And put a lot of water inside there, and we were shooting it through the front door that had burned off, shooting it through the, the 2 front windows there that had burned off. It was a brick front on the house too that met the concrete slab. And, literally the last thing I would think is, we were working there for quite a while. Me and Gray there was a swing chair that was on the front porch that was in our way. We kept bumping into it, and we both grabbed one end of it. And he grabbed an end, and I did, and he's, let's throw this and get rid of it, and threw it off over the bushes and threw it in the front yard. And it was like as soon as we turned around to turn back towards looking at the house, and I'd imagine this porch was probably 4 feet wide to 8 feet long, pretty good size, chilling spot, and boom, as soon as we turned around, I was like floating. I mean, all just a flash.
So let me stop you. It was concrete all over, even on the top?
Yeah. Go up onto the step on the last stair. And
wooden stairs?
Wooden stairs, and then you step onto the.
Was it like wooden decking?
No, it was poured concrete.
So you're standing on poured concrete?
I was standing on poured concrete,
okay.
Yes.
And it collapsed?
And then I saw a flash, and then the next thing I knew, stuff was hitting me in the head and all over the place, and, just everything got kind of loud, and it was kind of – I didn't really even have time to be like, oh, crap, what happened? It just started to try to rapidly process more or less like, bad, let me get out. This is bad, let me get out. Like that's – you know what I mean? And so I found myself like looking straight up. Then I knew it. Then knew there was a collapse. I knew I'd went down. I didn't know really where I was other than the front alpha side, And so from about my knees, mid-thigh down was buried. And I guess all that brick that was on the front facade of the house had collapsed down as well. And really the porch kind of cantilevered. So the whole thing didn't go down pancake. It, just kind of cantilevered down, but it cantilevered to where it would have pushed you in deeper a little bit, I guess. So I just started grabbing stuff and trying to climb out, and actually made it, which is weird because everything was moving. You'd grab a big chunk of something and then you'd pull it down and you wouldn't get anywhere. It was like trying to climb out of a ball pit, in a way. And so I make it up to the top, and I can see some guys are yelling, they're hollering at me. And I get up and I kind of get my arms up. I'm wearing SCBA. I'm bunked out. I didn't have my face piece on. I felt like I was operating in a defensive posture. There was no smoke where we were, A few of the other guys there, I think, had a face piece on, but nobody was hooked up. Nobody was breathing air. We're defensive. I'm saving my air. What if who knows at this point, in my mind, nobody had said that they were a fatality. Nobody said, I'm sure there was a lot of fire. I knew that these folks had probably expired. However, I'm going to make every effort. There's people in the yard watching us work, and they know their family's in there. So in my mind, like, I'm going to save this hookup. If I need to go in and grab somebody, I will, Anyway, I get up to the top, and 2 guys grab me, one from Woodstock and one from Cherokee. Actually, one of the guys was on the porch with us, and from Cherokee, and then he had stepped off to hump more of the 2.5 up to us. And when they pulled me, they pulled one of my gloves off, and I fell back down a little bit, And my legs got buried up again. And then I couldn't get my leg out, so I could feel where I was like, man, I can get my boot off. So I pulled my foot out of my boot and got back up to them again, and they pulled enough to get me out. So, and then they drug me out in the middle of the yard and threw me right next to the rip tart. And then a couple guys come over and start yelling, hey, there's guys inside, which is the funny part of this. And this guy still works for us, and so we always joke about it. But he comes running over to me and he says, come on, Richter, let's go, get up. Get in there, there's guys down in there. And they had unzipped my coat, and I couldn't move my right arm. And it felt like there was like a hot iron literally sitting on my right pec, on my chest, right here. And it was burning so bad. And I'm like, what? I opened my coat to see if like like something got in there on fire. That's how bad it burned. And when I got my coat open, I realized then I couldn't use my arm when I was trying to open my coat. I'm like, why is my arm so weak? And he's still yelling like, get up. And I'm like, dude, I just came out of there. I was one of them, you know, and you know, and I was just exhausted. There was a weird exhaustion there. I do remember that kind of like, and it was more the adrenaline dump than the work that I did. Because I experienced that over in the military. Kind of the adrenaline dump, and then you're just, when it all stops, you're toast. You know, you're done. Because I was standing, walking around. I was a lot younger then. I was in great shape. Moving a 2.5, squirting water, not a huge deal. But it was the adrenaline dump that I barely even could sit up. And I was just exhausted.
So one other guy fell in with you?
3 total.
What did they fall in? Was it a basement?
Yeah, there was a basement there. And then the basement, it was like a drive-under garage into the basement. And so what had happened was, and we didn't know this, they went back in and investigated, and there was a couple other houses on that street that had the same thing, the construction feature. It was a poured concrete, and there was a metal pan that was supported by like 1-bys, just wood, that had burned through, and they had poured the concrete on top of that to give it a look of a concrete porch. And so, but it was dug under, so there was storage all under that. You know, it was not dirt. It was a framed front porch with a metal pan and about a 2-inch, 2.5 inch, 3-inch poured concrete pad. And that's what it was. So, you know, it was really, you know, you would have never known. You would have never, ever known. Dark 30, fires blowing, people entrapped, big fire. Okay, here's a 2.5. Let's get up here. Where are we going to squirt it from? From the yard, squirting it would have just basically shot probably through the house. The bulk of the fire, some of the first floor had already collapsed at the time we were there. So, yeah, there was a collapse. You could tell there was some of the first floor looking through the windows that had collapsed down into the basement. And the car that was on fire in the garage was all, you could see some of that from the front porch. But again, we all felt like we were standing on, you know, concrete that was poured on top of dirt and not part of the framed structure. So that was kind of the deal there. And there was a lot of things. So you know, show up to a station that's not yours.
It's like all the cards were against you.
Yeah. And then you want to go deeper, like 19 didn't have an officer. The closest, I think, officer was either 7 or 24, if I'm not mistaken. So 1920 didn't have an officer.
Just a hotbed left officerless.
Yeah,
you know?
So there was just a lot, you know, there was two guys on a rigs. I mean, you know, there's a lot of stuff there that you know, as a fire service, you know, we're always going to complain about manpower not having enough stuff, you know, still doing it today, right? And so you think about, you know, how far have we come? I don't, you know, in a lot of ways, have we come very far? You know, I think we're better, certainly. I'm not saying us as a whole, probably the total of the fire service. I think much better about officership and making sure you got senior folks in the right places, and you know, we have limitations on how many can be off and all that kind of stuff. You know, but you know, that was certainly one of the contributing factors. One of the contributing factors for me was, you know, not taking more to that first 5 minutes. You know, you can go to a lot of classes and a lot of stuff you can listen to. You know, the first fire goes away the first 5 minutes, or
sets the tone for the entire
sets
scene.
the tone. The tone was not set. The tone was not set. I did not set the tone. The other guy did not set the tone, and so the fire set the tone, right? And so that's what you have to. If you don't make a decision, decisions will be made, but they're not going to be, you know, they're not going to fall in line with probably what you're looking for, you know. And then when you got to call the audible, are you ready for it? We weren't ready for that either. Then you had multiple agencies, you know, so you had a neighboring municipality that was responded to that scene. And so, you know, but it was our fire in terms of where it was, you know, in the county. And so then when you get multiple officers on scene there, after the fact, like, who's in charge? Well, one of their guys hurt, one of ours. So we had a municipal firefighter hurt and 2 county guys hurt. So it turned into a lot of, I think, I know from our standpoint, it was like, let's just put this thing to bed. Everybody's made it. Everybody's okay. Everybody's alive. Let's put this thing, let's, I've learned a ton from it, and I try to talk to folks about it, certainly there's that ride up feature, and even though, there's a lot to be said for that. When you get a chance to ride up, whether it be driver and you're riding up on the seat, or whether it be, captain riding up on the car, yourself, when you get a chance riding up on Medcon as a backup, those kinds of things, you just jump in there and you just think that, man, I'm going to have a great day, this, that, and the other. Mentally, are we preparing ourselves every time we're in that role, or is it just become just status quo? Oh, it's my day to ride up. Here we go. Because you can find yourself, it can happen fast.
It can. And I mean, I agree, man. When I get on the car, it's kind of like, cool, I'm gonna get this done today. I'm gonna get this done today. There are times when I'm not like, all right, man, if this happens, here's what I'm gonna do. If the south end Medcon goes down, here's what I'm going to do. Here's what I'm going to manage. I don't
Setting that playbook is important, and it's not something that we've become. I think you tend to just kind of be ready to adapt and overcome. Let the situation come to you, and then okay, I'll make this decision or that decision. But typically, it's not going to go that way.
Right. Right. But that's the audible.
Right.
You got to have that audible.
Right. Right. And so you get those mental reps in your head. For me, it's driving in. It's when I'm on the way to work. I'm kind of getting mental reps in. How we handle this? How we handle that? What's the weather doing? All those things. Now I never used to. Get out of bed and fly by the seat of my pants, hope to make it to the station on time.
Hell yeah.
But from a ripping night, the night before probably. But you got to kind of manage that. And figure those things out.
So now,
so the fire, so that all goes down. I had a torn pec, had surgery, and was out 7 months.
That's when we met.
Yep. And actually, the officer at one now is one of our shift commanders. And I'm trying to be careful about name dropping on here, but he's one of our shift commanders now, a guy that I completely respect, just a real go-getter in our department, and somebody that I, personal friend and mentor now. He says to me when I was out, I did all the rehab and did all my, stuff getting ready to come back, and I ran into him somewhere. I think I was put on light duty. When I was able to finally transfer from out to light duty, they had me up there like stacking papers and doing this and that in headquarters, and I think he was stopping by. He may have been riding up at the time as a captain, and he's like, "Man, you need to get out of here and go over to training. You'd be better off, working in training while you're trying to rehab and on light duty or whatever." And so I was like, it certainly would be better than this. I'd never thought about, that. I was just ready to get back on the rig. My goal was just get off of this 40-hour and get back on the rig. And whatever that looked like. And so the next day I came in and reported for light duty, and assistant chief, may have been training chief at the time. He's worn a lot of hats. He's currently our assistant chief. He said, hey, I had a captain come in here and talk to me and tell me you ought to be better suited in training. I can't agree with him more. Why don't you pack your stuff up and go report over to the training center? And that is when we met.
Best day of my life. So I joined the fire service in 2011. It's a young John Montague in the fire service, and I had Mr. Richter as one of our cadres, if you will.
Yep.
And early on, dude, I don't really remember much. It wasn't until like halfway through that I was like, all right, this dude's legit. because I thought you were a shitbag and a dick for a long time. But I think that's normal, right? I mean,
if you're, I remember thinking my first drill instructor was, just a ripping asshole, and it wasn't until I graduated that, I remember both their names to this day and what they look like, close my eyes, see their face, hear their voices. And so those things, now I'm like, God, I wish I could see that dude and have a beer with him now, and they were just amazing guys, And so, yeah, when you're the recruit in a recruit environment, the instructors are, I guess public enemy number one.
Absolutely.
Right.
Like, any way we could mess with you guys, we did. And likewise. And
yeah.
Y'all always came out on top, obviously.
Yeah.
But no, so went to recruit school, and then we knew you were a military guy. We knew you were a guy that's worn multiple hats. And you always told us in school, you said, the last week of school, I'll talk to you guys about my time overseas.
Right.
And again, I'll be careful what I say, but you brought in, I guess, I don't know what it was back then, whether there was a flash drive or a CD that you had. And just some of the pictures, dude, you showed us, and looking around at some of like the 18 and 19-year-olds, I was like, these guys aren't going to freaking make it, because these pictures were brutal, bro.
Yeah, I think you guys done EMT first, or no?
We were already.
That's right. Your crew was already EMT. So I did 2 more recruit schools after John's, and so sometimes they run together. So yeah, they were already EMTs, but I did. There was, after I showed some of those pictures and those slides, I was kind of like, oh, maybe.
They were legit, dude.
Maybe I'm going to hear about this. But no, and it wasn't to freak anybody out or scare anybody or anything. It was general. And
I felt like it was you opening a door.
It was
letting us into your world.
My thing has always been like, whatever I have, I give to anybody. I want anybody to be able to experience. To this point, I've lived a great life. I've certainly had plenty of downs, and I've had a lot of ups. And I think it's always that balance of, the ups and the downs of life, and so I want to try to leave and give whatever I can, because a lot of people have done that for me. Mm-hmm. And so by opening up, and you guys asking a lot during recruit school, oh, how was it over this and that? It's a pretty similar kind of gig in terms of, and I never knew this. My dad was a cop for 35 years in Miami, and not a guy of a lot of words, and not a guy that's always given me a ton of advice. But he said to me when I got out of the military, he said, you might look at the fire service. And I had no idea how, now we've got a ton of vets that work for us, and I'm sure that's, increased there from the time of the war and in Iraq and Afghanistan and where we sit here today. But, it certainly has been, wonderful for me in terms of the camaraderie, and there's a lot of parallels there. Mm-hmm. So
right out of high school you went in?
No, I actually flopped around and flailed around a little bit. Tried college. I tell people I went to college and got lost and found myself in the Army. But I did. I went up to Santa Fe Community College in Gainesville, Florida.
From Miami?
From South Florida, yeah, Miami and Broward County. Yep.
The hood, dog.
Nah. It was good times. I kind of bounced. My parents were divorced, so I was between Dade and Broward, and so. Went off to community college, screwed that up, came home for 6 or 8 months or so, tail between my legs, didn't make it, and I was just working odd jobs, worked at a golf course, some other dead-end jobs, and figured, I had to kind of shit or get off the pot. Mm-hmm. I didn't think that what I was doing was going to lead to what I was looking for. And I was at some point somewhere when all that was going on, and I was kind of doing the golf course thing and slamming Mountain Dews at 4 a.m, going in there to cut grass with a bunch of dudes that didn't speak English, and I was like, this is not going to end well. I don't want to be doing this forever. I just had this thing where I got home, and my mom was living down there still, and came back and I was crashed with her, and I was like, I feel like I got to help some people. I got to help. I feel like I want to help. And it was just that kind of, that's super cliche. But so then I started looking at military, and that's where
What year was that?
2000. Well, I started the process in '99 and ended up going in I believe it was 2000.
What year did you get out?
2000, early 6. My period from getting out. So I was in like, I say 6 years, but it was like I got stop lost. I only signed up for 5, so I got stop lost. And I did like 5 years and I think it's like 10 months, if you look at my DD-214.
And you deployed how many times?
Twice.
2?
Yeah, 2 out of country, 1 in actually. Operation Noble Eagle, right after the Pentagon got hit, we went there and they didn't tell us where we were going. We actually thought we were going overseas then, right after 9/11. And like days after, got to the building was still burning. And they were pulling people out of it. And we were just there to set up security around it. So yeah, that was kind of probably be a trivia question. I think it was the first time active duty soldiers were ever deployed in their own country, in defense of their own country.
And that was your first deployment?
Operation Noble Eagle. Yeah. Somebody will fact check me on that probably in the comments. Tell me that I'm full of what.
If Joe Rogan was here, we could have his guy.
Boom, look it up now.
Call you on your shit right now.
Yeah, put it on the monitor. But so yeah, that one. That lasted for, I think we were there for like 6 months, and then got back.
What was that like, dude?
It was weird.
Somber, I feel like.
Very strange. Driving up armored Humvees with 50 cals and Mark 19s running through the city of D.C., going from the Pentagon to the base we were at. Just, there was no stopping at lights. There was no anything. Like, it was legit. It was weird. Weird. A lot of people honking, fist pumping you, that kind of thing. Like, here's the Cowboys. They're coming to take over. What's happening next? But clearly the government had some sort of intel to say that we needed that kind of a 1, show of force, 2, force protection of some sort. And there was some things that I can't go into that were said that may occur. The kind of and was that done to just keep us on our toes so we don't just party in D.C. every night? I don't know, but we did both. But no, that was strange. What was weirder was the base we went to was Arlington National Cemetery, Fort Myer. All the
go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's where they housed us. So we were from 3rd Infantry Division, Fort Stewart, and it's a pretty roughneck division, and they've got a lot of history of being pretty hard and rough around the edges, I guess. And so we showed up to Fort Myer. Fort Myer is where they're all infantry, but they're like parade infantry in terms. So they just wear their dress blues, and they do the whole Tomb of the Unknown Soldier at the Arlington Cemetery, and they like to see us show up with tanned out Humvees and tacticaled out with our full battle rattle going. Like, we got more looks from those guys than we did from probably civilians outside the post, which was kind of we're running all over their base, running cadence runs and calling dirty cadences and stuff like that, and they're just like, yo, homeboy over there needs a C collar, he's breaking his neck, checking us out. It was just funny, It was just bizarre. It was surreal. It was surreal. And when you're going through it, you're just like, yeah. And then it's not until, years later you look back and you're like, what the hell was that about? So, and I say that about Iraq and Afghanistan to this day too. Like, what was that for? What all went down there? As I sit here, I don't, it's crazy.
So fast forward to overseas deployment.
Yeah. So after
what was your MOS? I'm sorry, infantry?
No. 31 Bravo, which military police.
Okay.
Yep. MP. And so, being with 3rd ID for the majority, it was, not a lot of riding around in patrol car stuff, which was originally, I think, why I joined, or know why I joined. I was like, I'm going to get, I was looking at the military like, okay, when I was sitting in my apartment with my mom and, we were thinking our way, I was thinking my way through what my future is going to look like. I was like, let me just go get 5 years of law enforcement experience. I'll get out, and I guess I'll, go be a cop and or go do federal law enforcement was really my end goal. Was like, I'm going to go try to jump in from MP, use that, and branch over into ATF or something like that. And so, yeah, so after the Noble Eagle thing, we get back and we refit, and like we turn around time like 3 months, and we're in Afghanistan.
And it was hot then?
No, Afghanistan actually was weird because it was not. When I was there, Bagram Air Base, it was still kind of being, it wasn't a real. I mean, it was a big base, but it wasn't like it is now. Of course not. But, and it was, I mean, we didn't even fire our weapons really much. I mean, a couple guys did here and there. There was a bunch of problem with landmines, heavily landmined area all around that base and everything else. I mean, but we did missions outside the wire, but we had other things that we had to do, or that we did do, base security. What would happen is some of your special operations guys that were at that base would go up and they'd go into the mountains, and then they would basically bring these people down, and we ran what was known as like a detention facility. It's basically an old airplane hangar with a bunch of razor wire running around. It looked like a dog kennel. And these guys would be brought down, just dirt farmers or terrorists. You didn't know what they were. And so we did that. I was there for, we did like it was OEF-1, Operation Enduring Freedom 1, and I was Iraqi Freedom 2. And the deployments couldn't have been any different. In Iraq was just, we were fighting almost every day in Iraq. It was totally different. But Afghanistan was weird. We were always kind of like on edge waiting for something to break off. And it never did, really for us. Now, years later, it was the opposite. Iraq was, guys that I was in with that were on both deployments with me, and talking to them, they went back to Afghanistan a second time before they ETS or got out of the Army, and they were like, dude, it was nuts. It was nuts, So it's all about kind of like it's wherever you push the bully, he's going to go somewhere else. If you run him out of town, he's going to go somewhere else, right?
So your first deployment overseas was
Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan.
And you said that was just
the
detention center. You guys were just
we worked. You would do rotations. You would do like a week in the detention center, and then you do a week on base security. So working some of the exterior positions, making sure you didn't get, just perimeter security, and then you do one where you do route reconnaissance and route patrols outside into the villages and stuff like that.
So then your second.
Come back from that, and then we go.
What was the? You were there the first time for how long?
Afghanistan, I believe we were like 8 months.
And then you
6 or 8 months.
Took leave?
Yeah, they get you back.
For how long?
You get a little bit of time off, like 2 weeks.
And then you went right back?
Well, no, then you go back to your base. So you go back to, I went back to Fort Stewart.
Okay.
Or you would go back to, Fort Bragg or wherever so you go back. You basically, unpack everything, clean everything ad nauseum, see the medics, see all that, and then you get some time off. Take leave, and then you come back, and then it's all about ramping up for the next one. And so, and then we got the orders that we were going to Iraq.
Did y'all know when you got the orders to go to Iraq how Wild West it was?
We were pretty sure it was pretty aggressive over there. We were the first. I believe we were the first. Operation Iraqi Freedom 2. I want to say we were the first group there after the initial push. So the initial push was made through. Like literally troops fighting troops. And then after that was over, then that was when kind of it created this like vacuum, I guess, then when the terrorists were able to come in and kind of intermingle with the populace, and you weren't necessarily shooting at or getting shot at people that were wearing, green uniforms with AK-47s saying, hey, here, I'm the enemy. So that was the issue there, and then, they started the IED stuff. Which wasn't something that was, hadn't been seen, I guess, from an enemy in quite some time, I guess, if you read history. So the roadside bombs and the that kind of stuff, and the hit and run mortars, it was always kind of just, they never wanted to just like come at you and fight you straight up. So it was always kind of on the move and shady, that kind of stuff. They definitely hit our, they hit our base a good time. And so that we actually I was in Bakuba, Iraq. I was about 30 miles north of Baghdad, top end of the Sunni Triangle, at Iraqi police station there. That was where we lived. And so we were there to help organize the Iraqi police officers. And this 2-story Iraqi police station with HESCO barriers, which are the huge
cages with like dirt and sand in them, right?
Yeah, exactly. That was what was around it, and that was pretty much it. And there was 50 to 100 Iraqi police officers that were there when we got there, and you had to drive out to go get your food every day to the local, because there was a FOB, or forward operating base, that was on both sides of us, Warhorse and FOB Warhorse, and there was, what was the other one? Gabe. FOB Gabe was on the other side of them. They changed names, but we would have to drive to Warhorse every day to get breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
How was that?
And that's when we would get hit. They could start figuring us out, and they would set their bombs up in the nighttime and whatever, and EOD would come out cruising late at night, early in the morning, trying to find them. And but yeah, it was always just we were on edge every single day there. Crews we were fighting weekly. Had multiple guys. Now it was different. My whole company was in Mosul, and my platoon was the one selected to go to this Iraqi police station. So we were kind of, an outlying platoon from my company. So there's 4 platoons in a company. 3 of them were up in Mosul, which is way up north, and then we were the ones that were sent to this Iraqi police station.
How many of y'all were there? How many are in the platoon?
35, 40
okay.
people. So, and yeah, I mean, we were getting mortared. We would have guys that would pose as Iraqi police officers. They would come in. It was kind of the same thing there. You would go for 1 week your QRF, quick reaction force. Next week, your base security. And then third week, you'd be, out doing patrols, going to get the food, going to, those kind of taking people to go up to Anaconda, which was up north a little bit, where they would have to fly troops in and out of. So you'd have a guy that have emergency at home. How does he get home? They don't just put a helicopter on top of the building. We have to drive him up there to Camp Anaconda, which is like huge base, movie theater, the whole deal. Like, used to be a big Saddam Disney World and stuff, I guess. He had all kinds of stuff there, and the military kind of took all that and everything. So, yeah, it was aggressive. It was aggressive. Had 2 guys that didn't come home from our company, and multiple others that were heavily wounded. So it was rough. It was rough. And as I sit here today, I wouldn't trade any of it, because there were some amazing moments. You look at these little kids' faces, and you see them. We were there when they voted. They were holding their thumbs up, with ink all over them. You'd ride down the roads, and their first time these people have ever voted in their lives.
Wow, and here we are.
Look at this shenanigans that actually, just took place in the Capitol last night and all that. Just bananas. So
you did 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, while I was in Iraq, I got stop-lossed. I was supposed to get out of the military like halfway through my Iraqi deployment, and they put a stop-loss on our MOS or our job, and that's where like the military can say, you're too valuable, not me individually, just that infantry, 11 Bravo, 31 Bravo, whatever it is, tankers, we don't have enough of you. There's too many about to get out or retire, whatever the case is, stop-loss. You can get out when we say you get out, or you get out when your deployment's over. So that was why I got back and decided to ETS, or get out of the military.
So what's that process like?
Did
they prepare you?
No.
They didn't prepare you for the transition.
No,
guys are fresh.
No. Yeah, this was 2006. I mean, they were still calling it shell shocked, not PTSD. That's how more recently that word, it was shell shocked. I remember being examined and an Army doctor saying, "Oh, you might have a little." I was telling him I was having a hard time sleeping, and he said, "Oh, you might have still a little shell shock from that deployment there. I'm reading your jacket. You guys went through a lot." I got blown up twice. I had 2 IEDs hit me. I couldn't hear for a couple of days after one of them. Had a damage to my right shoulder. One time the Humvee was on its flipped on its side, kind of rolled over in a way, and then slammed back down. The other one just kind of blew the whole right side off of it. Both times, luckily, they didn't know how to set the bombs. They blew either down into the ground or they blew away from the actual truck. So, had they done it the right way, I probably wouldn't sit here today. No doubt about it, because they both were direct impacts. So that was, and luckily had up armored Humvees. The crews before us that went out over there, that was the stories of, I don't know, you may not have heard it, they were putting phone books in the side of their flak jackets.
Oh, I didn't know
that was all going on. Yeah, the initial
just extra protection, or
yeah, they didn't have they had soft skin Humvees, so they were getting just shredded. And then finally, like my deployment, Iraqi Freedom 2 is when you saw a lot of up-armored trucks running around because they were shooting RPGs that were like an RPG-7 is designed to like have two detonations. So the first one blows through, blows some of the armor away, and then there's a piercing round behind that can then penetrate that vehicle or that building or whatever they're shooting it at. So once we kind of figured out what they were dealing with, I think the military stepped their game up, and luckily I was in an up-armored Humvee both times that I was hit. And they were like a month and a half apart, so it was crazy.
Was it both times when you were going to like eat?
No, one time no. One time it was. The other time it was we were going to evac a guy that got shot in the throat on the QRF team from another unit. Yeah. And so they had a guy that was hit, and they were taking fire, and they called for QRF and evac, and they couldn't get helicopter in on him, and it was in a little town called Biarritz, Burtz, I believe, Biarritz, and a lot of the fighters out of Fallujah had flooded to that area and Bakuba where we were and all over really, but in that Sunni triangle. And so they were in some 1st Infantry Division was down in there. They were literally firing M1 Abrams tanks. When we pulled up, an Abrams let loose the main gun into a 2-story building that was probably 800 square feet. And it just rocked. I mean, it rocked everything. Like shooting their man, and they were probably, I don't know, 100, 200 yards away. Like they were close. It was up close. Like they had tanks buried in tight quarters, and they were stuck in there. And Bradleys, guys running around fighting outside the Bradleys. We jumped out and laid down some cover fire, grabbed this. They were gonna. We ended up grabbing the guy. We went down there and they ended up getting him in a Bradley and getting him out, and they canceled us basically. They're like, so we stayed and we fought until we could, and then we got the hell out of there, and they told us to, go back to standby. So
what happens when you get hit? Like, do you have to wait for someone else to come get you, or are y'all rolling like 3 vehicles deep and you just jump in another one? Or
well, yeah, I mean, there's no, again, not a. We talked about playbook, right? Getting that playbook ready. There's not one across units necessarily, but a lot of medics. A lot of times you have a medic in, each platoon. Sometimes you have multiple medics per platoon, and so you get a medic to somebody and try to work on them right then and there, and then get them the hell out of that area where you can work on them better, in a better spot, So that's. And that was about this huge fight that was going on. We could hear it from our Iraqi police station for like 30 minutes before we got the call to go down there.
And y'all just, I can imagine what y'all was going through y'all's head.
We watched a helicopter go down. My other QRF deployment, or one of the other ones, was a Little Bird got shot down. And an RPG literally clipped the wing. Little Bird got shot down. And it lands in this big field right across the street from the Iraqi police station in Bakuba. I was on the tower, an observation point up, and watched it happen. And boom, we run down, jump in the trucks, QRF. We're sitting there waiting for the call to deploy and go and assist that crew, because you can't just freelance and go. It's kind of similar to the fire service. You want to go right now, because there's two pilots that are in. Like, we didn't see it crash. It obviously did not crash and explode. They put it down, and were able to. Later found out that it was in a grassy field of runoff of Iraqi sewage. It was a beautiful green field, right in like a courtyard area. Now we know why. And so we get over there. Finally, we get the call to go. We get there and the helicopter's empty. Come to find out, like, we see this car just hauls ass, takes off when we pull up. And it was the pilots both, like, basically, like, carjacked some Iraqis, jacked their car, and got the F out of there. Oh, yeah, insane. And so then we stayed, secured the helicopter, and then they finally, took a little bit of small arms off of that, but never attacked like I thought they would have from there. Like, dude shot his RPG, disappeared into the crowd, thought he was going to blow up a helicopter, didn't happen, and I guess that was like there was no, like, we were all like waiting to get just rocked right there as we put a 360 on that helicopter. And then they just, wound up, sent some big ass flatbed over there a couple hours later and loaded it up and drove it off.
So shell shock.
Yeah, they called it shell shock. And then later we know it now is, PTSD.
What kind of workup when you say you were transitioning out and the doctor said you got shell shock?
Hearing, vision, blood pressure, run some blood work, and then here's a sheet with some questions on it. You just fill them out however you want, kind of thing. Did you smell this? Did you hear this? Did you see these things? How many times did you discharge your weapon? Did you were you around, this or that, and then that was it,
And was there any kind of treatment plan or any kind of direction they gave you with the VA or anything? It was just kind of like,
no, thank you for your service.
Thank you for your time, sir.
Yeah, thank you for your service.
Good luck.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in fact, for some of the things that went down over there, I was, guys, you get medals and you get awards and this, that, and the other. It's funny. It's kind of just the kick in the ass from the Army, and it verified that I made the right decision by getting out. Not that I wouldn't have been successful if I stayed in and done 20 years. It would have been cool, I'm sure. Who knows? But I had I heard from a buddy that was in also, and he said, dude, check this website, out. And it was like militaryrecords.com, whatever it was at the time. It was like an official Army thing. And it showed that I had received a Bronze Star for actions over there. And I was like, okay. I heard that was, they were looking at that or whatever. You hear the rumbling when you're over there or whatever. Okay. And literally there was one, like a sheet of paper and the medal in my mailbox like a month later. So my ceremony was opening my, it was opening up my mailbox. Hey, appreciate it. Thank you for your service. Kiefer always says that. Thank you for your service to everybody. You know what I mean? So, but that was the official thank you for your service to me. In the mailbox. Here you go. Rock on. And that was when I realized, like, wow, the Army's so much bigger than you are. And the fire services too. Like, these people leave and you get out and you think it all ends.
Yep.
You think it's all over.
No way, man.
No.
And COVID, I don't know what about COVID, dude, has made me see that.
Yeah.
Like, when John Montague does not work for the fire department is still going to be there.
It's going to rock on. People are getting on med units. People are getting on trucks and rigs, and they're running calls. People are still calling 911. They're still freaking deploying people in the military, and it's just rolling. It's just a machine. And it just keeps on rolling along, and it doesn't give a shit who you are, what you've done, or what you think you've done. It's going to do what it wants. So, but it's a big brotherhood. That's where. What kind of connections have you made? What kind of, I got out in a weird time in the Army, and I've lost track of a lot of guys because I refused to get on the Facebook. But a lot of guys keep up on Facebook on there, And so I've kind of decided to stay off the grid that way in social media. And so I have not. And it wasn't when we got out, and the reason why is because when we got out, you had to be in college to even get a Facebook. I remember that. You had to have a college email address to get a Facebook account. And so obviously I didn't have that.
How times have changed. Well, you failed out of college, so.
Yeah. Well, hey, we all three have something in common then.
She didn't.
I did.
Oh, good.
I actually have a degree.
I for sure did.
The wives have got us covered then, because my wife did well in college also, and she's got a degree. So, but yeah, it just and I presume that the fire service will be the same way. In fact, I know it is. I see guys that have retired, and they just I feel like that transition is going to happen again. And I'll tell you, I was in a bad place. I was in a really bad place when I got out, almost as bad as I was when I first joined. And I didn't realize that for a couple of years later after I was hired here, and some very important things happened to me. One was I moved here to Kennesaw, Georgia, and because I had two buddies that I went to high school with that had a house here. They had a 3-bedroom house, so they had an open room. One of them, I'm forever indebted to them. That was not me.
That was the little pig under the table.
Yeah. Forever in their debt, because they offered me, I used to come up here when I would get leave from Fort Stewart, which is down near Savannah. I'd make the 4-hour ride, and I'd come up here, and I did it a few times, and I'd spend the weekend up here. And after the second or third time I did it, I was like, man, I could see myself up here, and I had a feeling that going back to South Florida was not going to be a great choice. I felt like there was too many opportunities and roads to lead me down, or have too much temptation to go down the wrong way. And, we'll never know how that would have turned out. But I do know that when I got up here and I got around them, there was, I woke up one night, my roommate, and he's like, what the hell's going on? And I was soaking wet, like somebody did a 5-gallon bucket in my bed on top of me. And I haven't, I remember that years later. I just brushed it off, probably woke up, started drinking. I had locked down a lot of my problems into a box, and it's not that I've dealt with them all today. I deal with them every day. You kind of work through those things. And so, but I was in a dark place, and what happened for me that was instrumental in my life was finding the fire service, because I spoke earlier about the camaraderie. When I first got, I applied for, I think it was Gwinnett, Marietta, Cobb, and Cherokee County. I couldn't tell you where Cherokee was on a map. And Cobb didn't want anything to do with me. Well, I took the test. There was like 800 people taking the test that day. And they ended up, funny story, they called me months later. I was already at my first station in Cherokee, and they called me asking me if I wanted to come do the psych eval. That's because they had me on like a backup list or whatever. So anyway, so I get hired here, and Cherokee just it felt like they put their arms around me right away. And I felt like a pretty good connection right away, and with this department. And it's been that way for the most part ever since. And then the second thing that happened to me was meeting my wife. And so it gave me some stability, that was super vital for me to have purpose in the fire department, and then purpose in my professional life, because I was just that flag that was any way the wind was blowing, dude, I was going. And, if there was that 3 to 4 month period from the Army getting out of the military to getting employed here, where I was just, up all night, couldn't sleep, not doing the right things, it was not good. And I didn't realize it at the time. I was treating people like shit, because I just I hadn't dealt with everything that I had just been through, and so I've told fire department probably saved my life. I say that without the probably, I should, because it did, And then getting into recruit school, meeting the dudes that I was with, I walked into it. I was like, man, I don't need any more friends. I got plenty of friends. This is. I'm just going to rock this and crush the PT and just do all this. And then now I got friends for life. You know, I went into it just super, super single-minded, selfish. I'm going to take what I want and I'm going to use it however it can best benefit me. And that's it. And I graduated recruit school, and that was a distant, memory. Like, I couldn't get enough of these guys. I couldn't get enough of what the fire service was. I couldn't get enough of just, more. And then now I've kind of got to the point where like I just want to give it back. I just want to give it back, because it's helped me so much. And so the transition was just, I don't look forward to the transition to retire.
Dude, I'm scared.
Yeah. You have to find something, working. You can only work out so many times, hours in the day. You can only hunt so many hours in the day. You can only fish, you can only, what else are you going to do?
I think my big thing is I want to leave something behind.
Sure.
I hope, and I'm going to do my best to leave a good name in the fire service.
Yeah.
But it's only going to last so long, man.
Well, yeah, legacy. I mean, that's my thing. It's like I feel like as fire officers and just leaders in the fire service, I've tried to look at myself as like somebody who's been a leader at every rank, and somebody that has tried to stand out at every rank. Not because I want to, because I feel like you have to. And I've never gotten any. I've been through so many leadership schools, and I sit here today. I've got one on schedule to go to. In like 2 weeks, I'm going to a leadership class. But I've never come out of one of these. And I think there's people that do, and better for them. But I just don't think that you can go to a class, read a book about leadership, and then just come out of it and say, man, I am it. I am ready to lead. I feel like, it's all about your experiences. What have you been through? What does that Rolodex look like in your mind of your life? Not just your career, your life.
Who are you going to listen to more? You go to ask somebody's advice, and they say, well, I read this in a book this one time.
Right.
Or the guy that's like, dude, I did this one time. I'm not saying these guys' opinions doesn't matter, it doesn't work, but I did it this way, and it worked pretty well.
Yeah, 100%, And so, I just, part of me, I just think that it's kind of that it factor, there's guys and there's girls that just have it, and they're leaders, and they just command that room, and and so I feel like it's, obviously as an officer, you have to be able to transition, to be able to make that and give back. I think it's more importantly, anybody can learn how to pull a freaking pre-connect off a rig. Anybody can. I used to say this in your recruit school, and I said it to all of them, and I say it to my crews that I've had, or guys that I've worked with. It's like, I could teach a robot. I could teach my 6-year-old how to pull a crosslay and repack it. I could teach somebody how to pump a fire truck, but what else are you giving them? What else are you teaching them? If guys show up, they don't know how to. They look at a push broom and a dustpan like it's got a button on it. So are you teaching them values, morals? Are you teaching them what's right and what's wrong? And that's how you leave your legacy to me.
I couldn't agree more, dude.
There's not anybody that's going to say, 20 years, 30 years from now, man, I remember how Richter taught me how to frickin' pull that pre-connect or that bumper line. Man, I remember how he taught me how to make that push on that fire, or how to hook that ceiling. Maybe, kudos. If you can revolutionize hook and ceiling, I'm ready to take your class because I love it. But if you can just rewrite it on how to hook some sheetrock, sign me up. But that 20-year-old kid or that 30-year-old driver, they're going to remember how you treat them and what you teach them personally, I think.
That's something I remember about you is, recruit school was one thing, but I got in the field and started working. And you were always a name that everybody always heard. Not to fluff or anything, dude, but you have the presence, you have the leadership, you've got the good mentality. And in recruit school, like I said early on in the podcast, through like around the end of the recruit school, I think I felt like you and I really bonded.
Yeah.
And that could just be me wishful thinking. But I really feel like we did, and I will never forget that.
Yeah.
There were times where I was just done.
Yeah.
I hated everybody in the class.
Yeah.
I hated you guys, and you always pulled me aside, and I will never forget things you said.
Yeah.
Like, dude, this is all part of the show.
Yep. There's a balancing act in any sort of a leadership role, and the books, and this is where I go left and the books go right. And it's the same thing with, like, they say you can't treat everybody the same. You can't treat everybody differently. Yeah, everybody's got to be treated the same way. And I could not disagree more. During the recruit process, as a leader in the Army, I realized that I had to motivate people in different ways. But you have to know them to be able to do that. There was people in your recruit school that if I kneeled down while they were going through a restricted passage and they were losing their gourd, and if I knelt down and if I got in their ear and I told them, get your carcass through this now, or I'm going to have the hole dug on the other side. And they would just they would lay right there until their face piece sucked to their face, and they would just stop breathing. But there's other people that if I said that to you, you would have gathered up the courage, and you would have went right through there, and you would have got through on the other side, and you'd have realized there was no hole dug. But that's just and that person that the first example, you got to get down there and you got to tell them, listen, dude, you're going to do this. You're fine. Everything's going to be okay. And then when they do make it through, you look at me and tell me you do that again, I'm going to freaking kick you in the rear end. No. But seriously, you have to know. You have to know how to, and that's okay. That's where we have to get. We have to know that that's okay. I can't just go up one side and down the other on somebody and know that I'll get results and know that person's not going to have an issue with it, because at the end they were results business, right? But then I do it to somebody else because I'm just going to be this guy. I've made lieutenant now, man, and I'm going to be, it is black and white. That's it for me. And you treat everybody, you wait and see how that works out for you, because that's what the book tells you. The book's a lot of don't treat everybody the same. That you can't do that. But that's where I go. That's where, like I say, that's where I don't like to go down that road. Everybody is wired. Everybody's totally wired differently. Their upbringing, their parents, their experience, their Rolodex. Those things are all wired differently. And you start going, after somebody a certain way, or trying to motivate them. Right? We're in results business, and you're trying to get things done, and it takes a certain, like I said, you got to know your people. And by knowing your people, you can't just stay in the office all day. You can't just you can't stay training all day long until they have no knees and they have no skin left on their hands because they're crawling around the bay all day long. You got to find a balance of both. You got to train plenty with them. You got to work with them. You got to hang out outside. You got to talk to them, and mainly you got to listen to them. And then observe them and watch them, and then that's how you know. And then you can. And so recruit school helped me become a better officer. Had I stayed in the military, I had an opportunity to go become a drill instructor, and I would have loved to have done that. It almost kept me in the military, so I kind of got to scratch that itch when I was a instructor in recruit school. I just came on with yours and just helped, and then I wound up being the lead instructor on a few other ones.
I regret not taking the opportunity. I had the opportunity, 2 years ago? Training approached me and asked if I would come to a recruit school, and I didn't. Just, we were about to have our daughter, and
sure,
it just wouldn't have worked out timing-wise. But
the time's got to be right.
Sometimes I wish I would have, just to get a different perspective. And I've been very fortunate in having the option to go down there really whenever I want.
And that's the key, is to try to keep that door open. You always keep that door open. And you know, our department being so young, and you have the opportunity, you know, 15 years now, but I sit here as a captain, it's like, you know, it's a balance of how quick do you want to, like, how do you want to go into training? Where do you want to take your career? Because it's like blink and it's, whoa, where did that go? Mm-hmm. So I'm fortunate to have done it. I would have liked to have done it maybe a little bit more, although, you know, I'm on a 40-hour work week after being on the shift work for 24-48 for so long. Me and the wife, it's like a cat and a dog in a room. We have learned, that's the other thing that scares me about retirement, being home every day. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, the spouses, they kind of like that. They like that time too, right?
Yeah. B shift is like my time. That's my time to like binge watch my shows and get stuff done around the house and not have to cook a crazy meal and stuff.
100%. My wife would echo all of that. Yeah. You know, I know she feels the need, like, I'm home. I got to cook. I got to do this and I got to do that. And, you know, but she said it just like you have, like, that's her time. That's her night. Mm-hmm. That's her day. It's, you know, and all that. So, you take that away. And so it's definitely a lot to think about to go to that full time. But I, like you, had the option. You know, I did one class I did on my days off.
That was the best.
Yeah.
Jimmy came to me and said, "Dude, we're not going to take you off the 24-48. Just come down here on your off days."
Yeah.
That was the best.
Yeah.
I would still like to, because I can't tell you what it's like to be on a true 40-hour work week.
Right.
I don't know what that's like. So it would have been. I think it would have been a good, just different view to see.
Sure.
For half a year or a year,
yeah.
You know. But, so you touched earlier on some current events.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a time to be alive, right?
Seriously. In all seriousness, dude, you talk about your military service, and, you know, I know you're a proud American, dude. To see what's going on and to see what we have come to as a country, dude, that, I mean, it pisses me off from a veteran standpoint that
yeah.
you've gone to defend these people's rights to do this shitty stuff.
Well, I mean, I'll light a fire right now for you. I actually yesterday got called a traitor on Twitter.
So you have a Twitter but not Facebook.
I was about to say that.
Yeah, I do. I know. It is just a cesspool. And every now and then I need a cesspool. I need to just dive in and then get out, and I got to go take a shower. But I actually had a burner account for a while, and I would just get on there and just go nuclear. But
like an anonymous account?
Oh, yeah. Just silly name.
What was the name?
The Branch Covidians.
That sounds like a
it had
conspiracy.
Oh yeah. That was kind of what I was going for. But and I would just go on there and just annihilate, you know, but then I was like, what is this? This is giving me nothing. This is just this is just throwing more logs on my fire that I don't need. You know, so, but yeah, I got called a traitor yesterday after the
by someone you know, or
no,
oh, okay.
By some random dude from Ohio that's never met me, that's probably never even read on my thing that it says I was in the military and, you know, firefighter, Metro Atlanta, whatever. And obviously a man of service. I've spent the better part of my adult life serving people. That's what I love to do. And but because of, he assumed, I didn't even say who I voted for or anything. He assumed my political affiliation was Trump, and because I supported him, he then said I was a traitor. So there's your current affairs. I mean, it's crazy.
How long did you pace, and like how much did you sweat after you read that? Because I know it fired you up, dude.
Actually, I was looking on my feed, and there was a couple other veterans that I, you know, obviously follow or whatever, and they had, it must have been one of the talking points, like, let's go after vets and call them traitors and kind of get them riled up, because there were some other people that were experiencing the same thing. But, you know, there's some scary stuff going on out there. I mean, you know, there was a journalist. I got on Twitter for sports. Back in the day when I got a Twitter account, it was for sports. I just liked to be able to follow current events of sporting teams and maybe some politics here and there. And there was a sports reporter for the team that I follow that yesterday was advocating censoring the President of the United States. So think about that. Here's a journalist who is advocating censorship.
Who, should be against censorship in general.
Is that not like, that's like a firefighter bringing in a journalist advocating censorship of the President of the United States, not just anybody. And it shouldn't happen to anybody.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But I just found that so perfect for the day's events that he just did not like what somebody was saying and was advocating that Twitter should shut them down.
Right.
Why does he have, literally was saying, why is his account, this is a great time to shut his account down.
I mean, that's what's going on with the whole cancel culture in general right now. Like, you can't, no one can state their opinion or say what they really want to say because of who they're going to offend, whether it be left or right.
100%. Everybody's involved. Everybody is wrong. And you're not entitled to your own opinion.
No.
Right.
No. And I heard it said years ago, and I've always remembered this quote. And it was, and it's happening. It's been happening for decades. Predates World War II. Is control the media, control the people.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, dude. And we are, yes.
I mean, 100%. I mean, families used to go to the movie theaters during the Vietnam era, and they would wait till the end of the credits to see if their family member had died. They would roll the credits, and they would show them live footage of Vietnam, and then they would roll the credits down to see it. I mean, there's always been this. We gotta see. The media. You know what I mean? And then where to me, where it all broke loose is these devices, and I'm holding up an iPhone for anybody that obviously can't see because we're not video, which is silly.
Did you want the video?
No, not that I want the video. It's silly that I'm holding it up.
Oh.
But it's at our fingertips at all moments. There is no cool down time to react and chill out before you make a statement or calm down. It's immediately boom, 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 send, boom, 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 send, and transition that to the fire service. People have lost their jobs all over the country for this stuff. Mm-hmm. Something that they've said, something that they've tweeted, something they've put on Facebook, something that they've liked, you name it. And people come after you. My wife last night was like, you better watch it on there. Somebody's going to come after you. It could happen 10 years. It could happen in 10 minutes. And I'm like, I didn't say anything that's,
right.
anybody could use.
Right.
But anything could truly be misconstrued.
Right.
Anything could be. And that was her point, And so it's crazy. And then to me, when journalists, truly journalists, when they became members of the media, there's air quotes flying now, members of the media, then to me they became like a celebrity status. They care more about themselves than the story that they're posting, and they're just chasing clicks. And so they will just character assassinate anybody that gets in their way. And then it's, the dumb masses, they look at the people in this country as the dumb masses.
And so I'm kind of torn, man, because like I am so against media right now. I am so against the news. But I mean, number one, we don't know what's true and what's not true anymore.
100%.
And it's just, dude, my life is better when I don't watch that stuff.
Absolutely. I've gone to almost none.
But then
you run the risk of ignorance.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. 100%.
And I don't want to be ignorant. I've never been the smartest political guy.
No. Me neither.
Or anything like that. I've I get a lot of mine through her because I know she does research.
Sure.
But it's to the point now, man, where I would call me ignorant. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But my mom, for instance, Grace,
yes.
saint.
She is a saint.
Is indeed. Her and my stepdad live at the TV.
Yeah.
And that is all they watch is the news. Yep. Last night, I had no idea these riots. I mean, I thought it was in Atlanta, but apparently it was in D.C.
Yeah.
She calls me last night and she says, "John, are you seeing this?" I said, "No." She said, "Oh my God, it's terrible. They've shot people. There's people breaking into the Capitol. Oh my God, it's unbelievable." And I said, "Well, you know what, Mom?" I said, "Here I am. on a 50-degree day, the sun's shining. I got my shades on. I'm going to pick up my beautiful kids.
Right.
Going to go to church. So my life's great. I haven't turned the news on once. I said I hate it for those people that are suffering from this.
Sure.
I said, but my life's perfect.
Right.
I said, Mom, maybe you need to break away from the TV.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. My mom has gotten deep in lately. I get all kinds of stuff sent to me by her and stuff. And I think she has had kind of an awakening where she wasn't really that much involved or paying much attention. And I think she now is, and she's kind of like just blown away at but she sources it herself. So she reads, she looks into it.
And I can appreciate that.
Yeah. And I can too. If you just, you're just a robot, like, yo, where's my TV dinner? The news is coming on.
This is what Fox News said, or this is what CNN said. Like,
yeah.
But
yeah.
Dude,
I want the turkey and the cranberry tonight, please, with the really soggy stuffing. My show's coming on. But
Americans don't research, dude. They go for the headline. And, dude, these people that post articles and you don't know because you're on Facebook, these people that posts these news stories on Facebook.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, I could name one person right now.
But don't.
But I'm not. They post these articles, and I guarantee you they don't even read the freaking article.
Right,
they
headline.
Just see the headline,
Yeah.
and they're like, ooh.
I've seen so many people that are like, haven't read this yet, but just wanted to share it. Looks interesting.
Yeah,
just based off of the headline.
They're throwing their excuse ahead of it. It's like,
Right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Let me preface my laziness here.
Yeah,
Yes,
my
exactly.
ignorance.
Yeah. What is the saying? I had a first sergeant that used to that said, "It's how does it go? It's when you're about to offend somebody, it's
With all due respect.
when you start with all due respect."
One of the things that I remember that I will never forget you telling us, you would say, because we was, with all due respect, FAO Richter or Senior Firefighter Richter, you would say, "Don't motherfuck me."
Yeah. I had a first sergeant that you'd walk into his office, and this is when I was a sergeant, and you'd have to report the first sergeant or something for something one of your guys did, or you did yourself, in my case, or whatever, and you'd say, and I made the mistake one time with the man, and with all due respect, sir.
Oh man.
Or no offense meant by this, sir, and he said, "You're asking permission to disrespect me. Get in the front lane and rest." And he'd put you in a push-up position, and you'd ask your question from there.
Did you like that?
And that it left him. I didn't think about it until then because I just was saying something I heard other people say.
You do it to others, Richter. And you did that to us constantly.
Well, now you know that you don't ask permission to disrespect somebody before you ask them a question or tell them something.
I'm the worst. When I talk to her, I'll be like, "Babe, I don't mean to sound like a jerk right now, but let me just be a jerk for a second."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're requesting permission to offend someone when you say no offense. But you're a goober,
But you're a goober.
So,
well, dude, what do you see? Where do you see us going as
the
populace?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just from a fire service base, it's definitely you have to be careful with social media. Then you gotta okay, we've got ballistic vests now on our rigs. I have a buddy in Baltimore who was telling me a story. He's a Baltimore fireman. He was telling me a story back when the protests were going on in the summertime, the BLM stuff and the social justice marches and all that stuff was happening. They responded to a call, working apartment fire. He's a tiller driver or works on a tiller, and they're like, engine company's already there. Lines are stretched. They're making the roof. Buddy of mine's making the roof, and they're throwing rocks at him. They've evacuated the apartment complex, and they're throwing rocks at the firemen going into the apartment complex to go, to get set up to go make the roof, and they're getting rocks thrown at them because they're not moving fast enough. Because
throwing rocks is going to speed them up.
Right, because that's a valuable way to motivate and get people to move their ass, right? It's just a crazy, crazy times. And as a veteran that has seen third world countries and been to places that people are truly, truly terrorized, starving, true poverty in terms of, dirt floors and mud huts. So it's hard to see the strife and the struggle. And that's not to say that there's not racial problems. That's not to say that there's not political issues and media doesn't fan those flames and all that is, that's definite. There's racists out there. There's racists in other countries too. We're not alone.
Right.
I think you deal with the racist individually. I don't think you deal with it and you punish everybody.
Right.
Just like, if somebody did something at my station or my battalion or whatever the case is, I'm not going to just go and like hammer everybody for somebody's issue. I think you deal with it on a case-by-case basis. But it's a common sense approach, and I think we've lost common sense. We've lost the ability to think for ourselves and use that common sense. But that's how I was brought up. That's how I was raised and taught.
Well, if you single out the one person for being the racist, just to talk about your example, right? You put them on the spot.
Sure.
So it's easier if you don't address the problem, you just address the masses.
Correct.
And that's like I see that big picture. It's so much easier to just be passive. Oh, we're all in this together. We can't do that. Instead of just going to the one person and saying, dude, like you messed up.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You're wrong.
Yeah. What happened to like when you screw up? Because I think I told somebody this not too long ago, but I was like, I screw up. I expect to be disciplined.
I would have more respect for you if you came to me and said, dude, you screwed the pooch big time. You need to get your shit together.
Yeah, like if I jack something up, I'm totally prepared for the consequences that should be coming. Mm-hmm. And so the people that are surprised by that or the others that think that there should be no consequences, I don't have time to wait for the next mistake. The next mistake could cost somebody's life, right? And that's kind of the business we're in. And what you let happen at the station could transition to a call. What you let happen on a call could transition, back to the station. And it all just, it's a wound that could fester. And you don't have to have anything on your collar to fix a problem either. We see that in public safety all the time. Guys are quick to just detach. Oh, no, I'm not going to handle that. One thing I'm very proud of is the crews that I've been a part of and guys that I've worked for and worked with. And, since I've made sergeant and higher, I guess, we hold each other accountable. We hold each other accountable. And, if we had a guy float in or a girl float in and comes walking across the bay in the morning at shift change and, boots are untucked and strings are hanging everywhere and you look like crap, like it doesn't ever even make it to me. Like folks underneath me, like tidy that up.
That's the way it should be.
But that you got to pass that on. You got to give that. Mm-hmm. You got to set expectations. I think this whole country could use an expectations talk check. Stay in your lane. But I'm nervous for the country. I certainly am. That's what you asked me. And I'm nervous for the country. I don't know, where this thing's going to be going. But here's the deal. I think I thought about this yesterday. Nobody's president forever. Nobody's nobody's going to be an elected official. These people can be voted out. They truly can be voted out. And if you don't like it, just like the weather, wait 5 minutes. Wait. In this case, wait 4 years or wait 2 years for a primary, and then go and vote. Now, the other side of that will say, well, my vote doesn't matter now because there was fraudulent elections. And so, is there something to that? I don't, above my pay grade. I have a thought on it. I have feelings on it. I've done my own research on it, and I don't like what I have found in a lot of cases. And the optics of it are not good.
Dude, just think of if they came out and said, yes, we have found fraudulent activity on this election process. Imagine what that would do.
Right. How would that make, just...
Where would the comeback? How would they ever recover from that?
Well, you don't. You don't.
Like, the validity of this
more chaos
justice system and government would just be out there.
I think it's worse by them. It would actually them not saying the damage has already been done. I think, I think you've got people that maybe voted for the first time that now they're like, screw this, I'm not doing this again. I mean, I'm wasting my time. I mean, one of the biggest things I've heard talked about, we solve the world problems at the firehouse right in the morning, have
kitchen
coffee,
table, baby.
Kitchen table talk and everything, shift changing. One of my favorite time in the fire service, if it's not going through the front door on a hot one, it is shift change at the station. I just love it. And I will continue to love it at whatever rank I am. That's where I have to be. I have to have that in my life, right? And so the other day I said it, and I heard it said again at another shift change. Think about the money that could be put to a better cause. I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have taken just one of the biggest, largest black trash bags, heavy duty, that you could find. And I would have bagged up every piece of political mail that I received during this process, and like weighed it and like put a monetary value on it, like heavy duty card stock. Some of this stuff is coming on. It's not cheap. And the printing and the this and that, you've made T-shirts before, you've made stickers, you've had stuff like this done. This stuff's not cheap.
No.
And you're making 300. These people are making 300,000 flyers and those kinds of things. And so there are. We talked about poverty and people in strife and people having problems. That is happening. I don't say that it's not in this country. There are some very poverty-stricken, some very inner cities that really, really need help, and because they've been failed by their elected officials, because they've been sold as false bill of goods, in my opinion, and because they have been conditioned to not fight for themselves. They've been conditioned to sit there and wait for it instead of take it. And so, but that money, you take that money for the political ads, the phone calls, the text messages, the commercials, and the flyers, and you could rebuild and revitalize. I mean, it would be unbelievable. And then if you'd say, if a guy came out and said, I'm running for this and I'm running for that, and you will not get one text message, you will not get one flyer from me, you will not get anything. I'm taking all that money and I'm going to turn it and I'm going to put it into this community. And I'm going to show you when I'm done, whether I win or lose, I'm going to put this money into this community. What would that do? Whether he won or lost, he'd have a legacy, right? He'd have something to show for, like, man, I made a run at it. I raised a ton of money, and I never bugged anybody for a little political ad. Maybe do some radio spots or do something. You got to figure out a way to get your name out there, that kind of thing, if you're running. But use social media, really. Just get on there, do something. But back off with the iPhone doesn't have enough blocking features for me. I blocked the phone calls, but now they get through on the text messages. It's just unbelievable. And they're and I don't just hit stop. I respond. I go after it. Not every time, but there's times where I'm just like, back off now, and then I wait, and then I just do the big capital stop, and then it says you have been removed from this text message list or whatever. And then there's other times where there's lots of nastiness on my end. Leave me alone.
We've had multiple people knock on our door,
and dude, that drives me insane.
Oh, that's crazy too. Yeah, that's nuts. And and a lot of them are not from here. They're not local.
No,
they're not local folks. They've been bussed in, and they're being told, so they don't know these communities. They're not members of this community. Your neighbor knocks on your door. It's a different story, right? And it's like, who the heck is this cat?
The whole political thing is just,
it's a mess. To call it a mess is an understatement.
It is, and it's become a joke.
Yeah, it is.
The validity and the sincerity and the point of view that the citizens have of these political people, these political figures, is just it's a joke.
Well, they too have become celebrity-like.
Exactly. Yes.
And that's a problem.
Yeah,
that's a problem.
They went from being politicians to celebrities.
Correct, and so is the media. That whole thing started all at the same time. I think when that switch got flipped. I mean, they've all become like a caricature of themselves, and they are reading their own news clippings, and they're just this larger than life figures, some of them, and they just have to show up and do a spot, grin, shake hands, and they don't have to have anything of substance come out of their face, out of their mouths, and that's on both sides.
They can't have anything of substance come out of their face, because then they detach themselves from half of their voting populace.
Sure.
Like they
Sure.
have to stay neutral on anything,
Oh, yeah.
everything.
Yeah.
Or they'll lose half of their population.
They're on record then. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, then they're on record.
So we can't have anyone who brings anything of substance to an office.
Right.
That's what that creates.
Well, the fix is term limits, I think.
Yeah.
Term limits is really a good fix. We have a term limit on a presidency. Why don't we have a term limit in Congress or the House of Representatives? You know, so that's how you get these 40 years in Congress. 40 years in the House, and senators that have been doing it for.
You have no one running against some people.
Right.
Because
that's right.
they're just going to stay there forever anyway. Why
Yeah.
would
Once
you
you've
waste
got a
your time
guy,
and
this
money?
guy's been a senator for 25 years. I don't know. I don't understand it. You get some upstart guy like John Montague in the neighborhood. He starts getting some good ground game going, and this, that, and the others. Man, I'm going to really make a difference. I'm going to really do this. And then next thing you know, they just come in with all their money and they just squash them. They squash
That's my
them.
next endeavor.
And the intentions are good of those people that want to start up. Those intentions are truly of help. And then the big money, big corp comes in, squash.
Yep.
So, and that's kind of the machine. It's a machine. Big donors, big corp, so, but
Have you had COVID yet?
I have not, that I'm aware of. Me and my daughter was sick at the end of when it all started, like January 19, December of 19, January of 2020, early. Multiple fevers, sore throats, took her in, negative strep, negative everything. And took her in again, no ear infection, negative flu, negative strep. And the primary care the nurse practitioner says to us the one time when I didn't realize it for months later, she says, gosh, it's been this is either December of 19 or January of 2020, somewhere right there, those couple months. And she says to us, that's been a very viral start to the year already.
Did our doctor said the same thing
We
to
just
us.
can't figure it out. I've sent a lot of families home with no answers. And so I remembered that statement months later, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, it's been here a lot longer than
No doubt.
than everyone said.
Yeah.
You would get test negative for the flu, and they're just like, it's a different strain, you got the flu.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Something I've
Well, and I don't know how much different now that we know that it is of the flu. I mean, in terms of, I'll tell you one thing it's good at. It's cured the flu.
Yeah, you don't hear about the flu. I haven't heard
Zero.
one thing about the flu.
Of course, the media never reported on the flu and flu deaths.
Facts.
So, anyway, I digress.
Which I said this to my mom last night on the phone. My stepdad had a massive heart attack a couple days ago.
Oh, wow.
Had emergency open heart.
Wow.
So I've been checking on her a bunch.
Yeah.
I'm not a mama's boy. I don't call her all the time.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
You're not supposed to say.
Yeah, this
Why
is.
would you say that you're not?
Let it rip, Molly.
But I said, you know what, Mom? I bet you money if the media didn't tell you and Facebook didn't tell you, you would have no idea we were in a pandemic.
Yeah, how would you know?
No one would know.
Nobody would know.
It would be a bad flu season.
That's correct.
We'd be like, damn, stay inside. This is a really bad flu going around this year.
Right.
How would anyone know?
And I go back to control. Who controls the media controls the people.
Yeah.
And the Wuhan and all these other places are like back ripping again. No problems. They're outside. They're doing their things. They're not on lockdown. Nightclubs are ripping. Whole deal. And I mean, you got the city in New York City. These other places that are just crumbling, just toast. All because of control.
All because it's an election year.
And it's an election year. I wonder how differently COVID would. I don't think the fire service would treat it any differently in terms of. I think we definitely would have masked up and all the stuff we're doing. Non-election year, it would not have gotten as much hype as it has.
Anywhere. I don't think it would have been.
Don't.
And I'm not saying.
I know it's real.
Yeah, exactly.
I know it's real, 100%.
Yes.
I know it's out there. I know the section of the population that it attacks and who it wants to have that affinity with and cause problems. And I know who it doesn't. And I'm okay with that. I wear a mask. I do what I'm supposed to do. I got a rental car out here. Before I got in it, I wiped it down. I wiped down my the steering wheel and the shifter and all this. And I'm sure I missed 5 other places, but I wiped it down, and that was that. But it's when you pack COVID on top of the political climate, it's public safety's. Holy smokes, we've got the vice grips on us, right?
Yeah, and I haven't been around 15 years, but I've never seen it like this.
No,
never.
Neither have I. I was the biggest thing that kind of impacted the fire service earlier in my career was the economy collapse. The crash of the market. 08, yeah. And that was more of an economic feel. Things felt like they got skinny. There was no trucks, no engines showing up. There was, in terms of buying new, there was no plans of doing XYZ. I can imagine if you were a leader in a fire service in terms of command staff at that time, there was the 5-year plan probably looked pretty grim. Back then we didn't get raises for 5 years or whatever, a number of years. We went a long time without even a cost of living raise. And so, things were super, super tight, manpower was, really, really bad. But it was, it was a different bad, people still, I was still getting paid. I didn't have a giant 401k on the brink of retirement. And then all of a sudden the next day I woke up and it was toast. And, so, and I feel for those people, but again, you said it earlier, you told your mom the sun's shining, you're going to pick up your beautiful kids, you're going to do, you tend to kind of back up and let's look at and my wife's better at this than I am. She always looks at what are we doing? Let's look internally. How is our day? Or it says, how does this affect us? And I think she does it and try to reset me when I get going. And I normally kind of get back at her, and then we start going. Then we're cool. We go eat Mexican food, and we're all good.
So, have a margarita.
Yeah. Yeah. Margaritas. I married an Italian girl, and we eat Mexican 3 times a week. She's from California. I'm from Miami, but she has totally turned me to, she's got to have her Mexican and her margarita.
We frequent the Mexicano as well.
Excellent. Yeah. You can't go wrong. It's a good choice. But, that's, I would say that's, I got hired, my class was unique. We went through recruit school. It was either 1 week or 2 weeks of recruit school was driver. They put us through a clipboard hydraulics, and we actually hit the field after EMT school. We hit the field, and we were FAOs. We were drivers. Hadn't been in our first fire, hadn't pumped our first fire, getting paid driver. You want to talk about jacked.
Well, y'all are also in a station by yourself, weren't you?
Well, not in the station by ourselves, but my first fire I pumped was a dumpster fire, and I was on the engine by myself. I pulled over 3 times to look at the map book to see if I could get there. And the guy, the lieutenant that was there, who was on the med unit that day, he said, if you catch something, pull out on the pad, stay on the apron until you are able to figure out where you're going, and do not roll until you know exactly where you're supposed to go. And I totally jacked that up. Pulled over 3 times.
We all make mistakes.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But I've told people that now. All this crap goes down. You better know where you're going. Pull over. Stop. That was there was good in that bad. I pulled over. I didn't just start ripping it all over the place looking for this thing. Pulled up, pulled the booster reel, put it in pump gear, pulled the booster reel, and put it out.
Jake.
Oh, yeah. I thought I was doing it. But on a fire truck by myself.
10 years ago? 12 years ago?
No, 12, 13. That was really that first year out, 2 years out. So, yeah, you're talking 13, 14, 12, 13, 14 years ago. Gosh, it's not that long ago, though, and here we are still now, we're fighting for
3 on an engine. Oh, you have 3, don't you?
Yeah.
Must be nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it
We're
is.
out there we're out there in the sticks by ourselves with only 2.
Well,
No, but I get it. You know, you're in the city. You need some extra help.
well,
You got a hydrant in every corner.
yeah, but there's something to be said for being rural too and having extra hands because it's going to take longer for others to get there.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We need the extra hands.
Yeah. No, I agree. It shouldn't be who needs it. Everybody needs
Exactly.
it.
It should be a standard.
Well, studies have shown, time trials have been done. A 3 firefighter crew, what they can accomplish in 5 minutes versus a 2 firefighter crew is.
They say that's the minimum.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's astronomical.
Right.
What
They
you can
say
accomplish.
3 is the minimum you should have.
Correct. That's correct.
That's minimal.
100%.
Right.
As it should be. As it should be.
Well, dude, you got anything else?
No, man. I don't.
really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, it's a
too.
good
This one
one.
was good.
Yeah, it's
You're
solid.
a good speaker, but I knew that.
Well, thank you.
You have a great mic voice.
Do I? I'm nervous about how I may sound, but
You
we'll see.
sound good.
Okay.
That's
It
all I
is
got.
my normal voice. I don't know what all you've done to it.
It's
but
this, dude. It's these
this
things.
round thing here. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But now I've enjoyed it. Appreciate it. And thank you for the opportunity.
And thank you for your time, buddy. We appreciate it too.
Yep.
Okay, we're done.
Dude, that